Hello guys, so today we are going to discuss about unit number 18. So this is the last lecture for unit 18, and unit number 17 plus unit number 18. This section is called internal controls, and this is your 15% of your exam. So we have already covered unit 17, and we also covered some portion of unit 18. So today we are going to cover remaining part of unit 18, and our main topic is input controls, processing controls, and output controls. So guys, our normal operation, obviously we use information system, we use computers in our normal operations. So that is why our normal operations, they are always the part of the information system. So here we are discussing three types of controls: input controls, processing, and output controls. Please remember, first of all, what is the purpose of input controls? Then I'll tell you how many types of input controls are there. So input controls provide reasonable assurance, because controls cannot provide you the guarantee. It cannot give you the absolute assurance. It will always give you reasonable assurance that whatever data you are submitting for processing, that data is authorized, that data is complete, and that data is accurate. Because sometimes they will ask you the question, what is the objective of input control? So you would say the objective of input control is to provide reasonable assurance about the data which we are going to submit for the processing purpose, that that data is authorized for entry, that data is also complete, that data is also accurate. Now, guys, here we go. When we talk about especially input controls, so input controls can be explained from two different aspects. It can be explained with respect to the online system, which is also called real-time system, and it can also be explained with respect to the batch system. So what is the online and batch system? Then I'll explain. So only input controls can be linked. Input controls can be linked to online system and batch system. Processing controls are same for the online control and for the batch system. And even the output controls are also same. But only input controls having two different versions for online system and for batch system. So what is the online system? Let me give you example. Online system is the system, guys, where even if you will submit the individual transaction, one transaction for processing, so system will update that transaction into database, and that database will be immediately reflected to the all user. Now, for example, very best example, like airline reservation system, right? Under airline reservation system, like when you are trying to book a ticket, obviously if there are thousands of people, they are booking a same flight. So if some of the people have booked the flight, obviously it will be reflected to all other users that this flight is having remaining tickets, or this flight is already booked. Understood? So that is called online system. So here we go. For the batch, I'll explain later. So first of all, online input controls can be used when data are keyed. Keyed means when you enter the data into an input screen. Obviously, guys, there is always a screen. There is always a format. Pre-formatting is there, where there you have to enter the data, right? For example, when you book the airline ticket, there you have to select the suffix. You have to select the first name, last name, passport number, whatever information is required, right? So that is called the input screen, where you are entering the data. So how many controls are there for the online or the real-time system? These are, please don't forget, I'm talking about only input control. So very first control, which is for online system, the first input control is pre-formatting. Pre-formatting, I can just give you examples like, for example, even you are accountant, when you book any JVs in the system, so there you can see certain fields are there. There you have to enter some data. For example, there could be the field of date. There could be the field of, for example, description. There could be the field of debit side. There could be the field of credit side. There could be the field of for the account number of the debit side or the account number of the credit side, right? So there could be a field for amounts as well. So that is called pre-formatting. Another example for pre-formatting, like when you create even, let's assume, any Gmail ID, Google ID, obviously there is always a field like where there you have to write your first name, middle name, last name, date of birth. You have to select the Gmail ID. You have to select the password. So that is the format is there. There you have to enter the data. That is called the pre-formatting. So pre-formatting can be explained this way. So the data entry screen mimics the old hard copy document, forcing data entry in all necessary fields. Like in simple words, it is a format where you have to enter the data. By looking at that format, you can realize what you have to enter here, right? So that is called pre-formatting. Obviously, this pre-formatting, if you will define the pre-formatting, the format of the data entry, so it will also reduce the mistakes in the data entry. So that is why this is the first control, which is called pre-formatting. Now we have here second control, that is also online input control. That is called what? Audit checks. It is also called field checks. I'll give you example. For example, this is also a control. Let's assume when you, for example, for audit and field check, in simple words, I can explain. Like for example, when you are writing date of birth, you have to enter digit. If you will write alphabets in digit field, maybe system will reject your transaction, right? So same another example, in the name field, you have to write alphabets. If you will insert any digit in the name field, system will reject the transaction, right? So this is called what? Audit or field checks. If you will go through how it is explained, the data entry screen prevents certain types of incorrect data from entering the system. For example, the system rejects any attempt to enter numerals in the name field or letters in the amount field, as I gave you example. So this is also another control, which is called audit or field checks. I hope so it is clear. Then we have a third control for online input control, that is called limit checks, or it is also called reasonableness check. So I'll just give you simple example. For example, now you are going to make payment through the credit card. Okay, and maybe you have bought something from the internet. Now you are going to make a payment through the credit card. For the credit card, you have to enter the 16 digits, right? 16 digits. If you will enter 15 digits, or if you will enter 17 digits, so obviously system will not process your transaction. So this is called what? Limit reasonableness checks. Okay, so here this is what is called limit or reasonableness check. So this can be explained this way also. Certain amounts can be restricted. As I told you, it can be restricted, like credit card payments. If you're making any payments through the cards, so it is restricted up to 16 digit. So if you will try to enter more than 16 or 17, it will reject. Understood? So certain amounts can be restricted to appropriate range. Okay, such as hours worked less than 20 hours per day. For example, maybe you have designed the system. There you have to calculate the labor cost, for example, and you have given the command to the system that no one can enter more than 20 hours a day. Okay, that they have worked 20 hours a day. So you have, let's assume, if you have given this command to the system, and anyone who will try to enter 22 hours, 23 hours, they have worked for you, so maybe it will reject. Understood? So as I gave you example, so the best example to understand, like the payments through the credit card. Then we have another controls for online input control, that is called check digit. I'll just give you example. Let me first read it. So, or let me give you example, this one. First example I'm quoting. For example, guys, let's assume you are an accountant. Okay, but you cannot create a chart of account in the system. Any new account you cannot add. Maybe you are senior. It could be the manager. It could be any senior person. He can create a new account into the system. Understood? And obviously when he is, let's assume, giving the coding to the system. I'm just giving you one rough example to understand. When he's giving, every account is having a code. For example, he has given a code 56369. Understood? So again, he has given the code 56369. for example 3 7. I'm just giving example. Now here let's assume what algorithm is following, what he is doing, your senior, whenever he is creating the account, so he is giving this, he is following this algorithm. What algorithm? Like when he will add third last and second last digit, it should be equal to the last digit. For example, 3 plus 6 is equal to 9. Here also 4 plus 3 is equal to 7. Understood? Now let's assume that senior person went on vacation. Now you are saying, oh, I will create the new account in the chart of account. Now you are saying, oh, you are thinking is giving 5 digits. So you have given this digit 56961. So once you will give this according to the account, obviously system will reject. Why? Because you are not following the same algorithm which he has created in the system. Understood? Like for example, 9 plus 6, it should be 15, but you have written 1. So system is rejecting. So this is called what? Check digit. Understood? So check digit, how it is explained. For example, if you will look at here, so here, let's assume how it is explained. An algorithm, it's an algorithm, is applied to any kind of serial identifier to drive a check digit during data entry. Okay, as I gave you example, the check digit is recomputed by the system to ensure proper entry, right or wrong. If obviously guys, for example, if you have created the check digit, like every time the last digit should be 9, for example. Okay, so like for example, summation of a second last and third last digit should be 9. Let's assume. So this algorithm you have created. Now guys, if this kind of algorithm you will create, it can also create a transposition error. Understood? For example, you have given the command 6 plus 3 should be 9. But if like total should be 9. Okay, you have given this command. So now here transposition error can be raised. For example, if I will write 5 plus 4, it will also be 9. If I will write, for example, 7 plus 2, it will also be 9. So these, if you are doing the summation and then you are making the check digit as a final word, so it can also create some transposition error. Even the people are entering this data, it will give you again 9. So system will accept. So, but my point is, what is the check digit? Like it is the algorithm. Okay. So if you will not follow that algorithm for the any serial identifier, okay, so then guys, obviously system will reject the transaction. I hope it is clear. Then it is also prompting is there. Prompting is also input control. Like obviously when you enter the data, here system might ask questions for the user to ensure proper data entry. Obviously, like a user review also. Like when you enter the data, for example, they are showing you in summary, like this is the information which you want to process. Understood? These asking questions of the user to ensure proper data entry. This can also work as a control. Then guys, again, we are discussing input control. Okay, don't forget the purpose of input control. The purpose of input control is to provide the reasonable assurance about the whatever data you are entering, that is authorized, complete, and accurate. Understood? And now we are discussing input control with context to the batch. Okay, what is batch processing? As I told you, there are two types of processing: online processing and batch processing. For the online processing, I gave you the example of airline reservation system, right? So where even single transaction you are submitting to the system, so this transaction immediately it will be updated in the database and it will be reflected to the user, right? But for the batch, in batch, what you are doing, the word itself you can focus. Batch means to say here you are giving group of transaction, okay, to the system to process. That is called batch. So for example, maybe I'm just giving you a rough example. Let's assume this is the computer screen and I'm working in a bank. So I want to transfer the salaries of your employees. You are a company of ABC company. So this is my computer screen. So for example, you have sent me the bank transfer letter for 50 people. So now what I will do, I'll write it here. First person, his IBAN and his salary. Second person, his IBAN, his salary. Third person is IBAN and salary. I'll write up to 50. Okay, at the end, there are two buttons. I can proceed or I can, cancel the transaction, for example. So now here I have entered 50 transactions. Okay, and all these 50 transactions I can process by just clicking the proceed button. It will, the system, the bank will transfer the salaries to your respective accounts. Understood? Or I can abort the whole operation by clicking on the cancel button, right? So this is called batch processing. In batch processing, so the group of transactions are submitted to the system for processing purpose. Okay, so this is what is written here. So batch input controls can be used when data are grouped for processing in batches. Understood? As I gave you example for silent transfer. So what are the batch input control? Guys, so there are 4 main controls are there. Number one control is management release. Obviously, as a bank person, I should not process the salary of your company unless it is approved by my bank management. Obviously, how they approved, obviously, they will stamp the bank transfer letter, then I'll receive and then I'll transfer, right? Unless it is not approved, okay, it is not reviewed, or it is not approved by my senior managers, so I should not process this transaction. So this is what is called management release. This is one control. Control is what here? It should be, before entering into the system, it should be reviewed and approved by manager. Understood? That is called management release. Then we have here a record count. Record count, for example, you are transferring the salary of 50 people. Okay, so record count means say I have to count number of transactions, okay, which I have entered into the system. So those transactions should be 50. Okay, that is called record count. So a batch is not released for processing unless the number of records in the batch as reported by the system matches the number calculated by user. As a user, I know it is the salary of 50 people. So obviously, so once I will enter the transactions as a batch into the system, so there should be a 50 transaction in a batch. So that is called record count. So whatever the total, whatever the number of transactions is showing on the piece of paper, same number of transactions should be shown on the computer screen. Then I should process this transaction. This is called record count. This is another control. Understood? So then third is what? Control total validation routines. Okay. So what it is, guys? So here our focus is on the sum of the dollar amounts. For example, it is the salary of 50 people. The salary of the first person is, for example, $10,000. Second person is $2,000. Third person is 3,000 and so on. So total is, for example, $600,000 is the total salary. Okay, this is the total on the bank transfer letter, like on the piece of paper. So obviously, once I will enter these transaction onto the system, so the financial total on the system should also be $600,000. So then I can proceed. My transactions are complete and accurate. Understood? So this is what is another control that is called control total validation routines. So here our focus is not on the number of transactions. Our focus is on the sum of the dollar amounts. Whatever the sum of the dollar amount is showing on the bank transfer letter, so it should be the same on the computer screen. Okay, before processing. Then guys, we have here hash total. What is the hash total, guys? Okay, for example, as a let's assume, let me give you example. You are going to enter 3 invoices into the system. I'm just giving you simple example. So there is the first invoice. Invoice number is 1, 2, 3, and amount is $10,000 for any Mr. ABC. Invoice number 2, again, is total is 1, 2, 4, for example, and total is $10,000. Then invoice number 3, 1, 2, 5, total is what? Again, $10,000. Okay, now what is hash total? Hash total doesn't mean you are going to total the dollar amount. No, if you are comparing dollar amount on the paper and dollar amount on the system, that is called financial total. Okay, financial total is also called control total validation routine. Understood? But what is the hash total? Hash total means say you have to add something else other than dollar. For example, you can add maybe the invoice numbers. If you will add the invoice number on the piece of paper, 3 plus 4 plus 5, it is how much? 12. So 2 plus 2 plus 2, 6 plus 1, 7. So it is 3. So it is total is how much? 372. So please make sure you are not going to total the dollar. You are going to make the total of anything else other than dollar. It could be any other digit. It could be the total of date, total of invoice number, maybe like that. Okay. So once you will make the total on the piece of paper, and then the same total you should get on the system. Okay, whatever you have entered. Obviously, these three transactions you will enter into the system also as a batch. So once you will make the total of the invoice number on the system, that total should also be 372. So this is called hash total. Hash total will also again ensure that whatever transaction you have entered, okay, that is accurate, complete, and authorized. Understood? I hope so it is clear. Right? So under hash total, you are not making the total of dollar. No, you are making the total of something else, other digits. As I told you, it could be invoice number, it could be date, it could be the total of social security number. If these are checks, it could be the total of check number, etc. These are called what? Hash total. Understood? So you have to go through the theory as well, how it is explained the hash total. So they're saying the arithmetic sum of, you are going to make summation of numeric field which has no meaning by itself. Maybe it has it is not important for me, but can serve as a check. But it can serve as a check. Like for example, as I told you, you have made a total of invoice number, so that the same record that should have been processed were processed. So it will just give you example. So it could be the social sum of social security number, sum of invoice number. It could be the sum of dates also. Understood? I hope so it is clear. Now, guys, we are going to discuss about processing controls. Okay, please remember, I'm just giving example. Processing controls, first, what question they can ask you? They can ask you what is the objective of processing control. Again, you will start like that. Objective of processing control is to provide a reasonable assurance that all data submitted for processing are processed and only approved data are processed. Okay, so by the way, these controls are not in your hand who is entering the data. No, these controls are always built into the application itself, into the software itself. And who built these controls? These controls are built by programmers, obviously, who have written that application. Understood? So these processing controls are not in your hand as a data entry. No. So it is built in the system. For example, I'll give you a couple of examples. So many of the input controls can work as a processing control also. For example, let me give you a couple of examples. For example, for example, guys, check digit. Check digit can also work as a processing control. If you will not follow the same algorithm which is given to the system, so obviously system will not process your transaction. So it means check digit can also work as a processing control. Understood? Another example, for example, limit check. Limit check. For example, credit card digits. These are 16 digits. If you will try to enter 15 digits or 17 digits, so system will not process your transaction. It means limit check or reasonableness check. So these are also, guys, can work as a processing control. Another example, I can give you the example also. For example, even preformatting can also work as a processing control. For example, if you will not enter all the required data into the fields which are mandatory, system will not process your transaction. For example, if you are trying to book a ticket, let's assume, you are not entering your suffix, or you are not entering your name, or you are not entering your passport number. So maybe system will not process your transaction. Understood? So it means almost all of the input controls can work as a processing controls. Understood? So I gave you example. Another controls are what? So completeness. Any record with missing data is rejected. So this you can link completeness, you can link with the pre-formatting. You know, in the format, some fields are mandatory to enter. If you will not enter the data into those fields, system will not process your transaction. Another example for processing control, this is the new one, which is called arithmetic controls. What is arithmetic controls? It is also called zero balance checking. I'll give you example from accounting point of view, guys. When you enter any transaction in the software, obviously you enter debit side, you enter the credit side. So obviously debit side, if it is 100, credit side should also be 100. Right or wrong? So the down balance should be 0. Why 0? Because system will do what? Debit minus credit. So it should be equal to 0. If, for example, your debit side is 120, credit is 100, so obviously automatically here balance will be 20. So if until unless the balance is not zero. Until unless the balance is not zero, okay, system should not process your transaction. Until unless the balance is not zero, system should not process your transaction. Understood? So this is what is called zero balance checking, right? So this also work as a processing control. Then we have a sequence check. Okay, sequence check is also can work as a processing control. I'll give you simple example. For example, guys, when you make any payments to the supplier, when you make any payment to the supplier, so guys, transaction should be in a sequence. For example, first you have to create the supplier, right or wrong, into the system. Then you can process the payment to the supplier. So if you will enter directly payment into the system without creating the supplier, obviously system will not process your transaction. So this is called sequence check. So sequence check can explain this way also. Computer effort is expended most efficiently when data are processed in a logical order. Simply, data should be processed in logical order, as I gave you example, such as by customer number. Okay, so this check ensures the batch is sorted in this order before processing begins. Understood? I hope so it is clear. It is like us, in other words, sequence check. You can also say it is the sort out. You know, you are sorting out the data, right or wrong. So this is also sequence check. Then we have another control for processing, which is called run to run control total. What is run to run control total, guys? I'll just give you a simple example. For example, on the Excel sheet, let's assume this is the Excel sheet, right? So when you enter the amount, for example, amount is $100, amount is $200, $2,000. So down to the Excel sheet, you can see there is always written what is the average. If you will select these fields, so it will give you average. It will give you the sum also. For example, once I will enter the new transaction of 3,000. So obviously average will change, sum will change. So this is what is called run to run control totals. Understood? It will help you under processing controls, right? So for example, maybe you are entering, for example, you have 1,000 petty cash transaction, which you want to enter in one single voucher into the accounting system. Obviously, first you will write one debit side, second debit side, third debit side, 4, 5, 7, 8. At the end, you will make maybe one credit side, right or wrong? Obviously, once you will keep entering these transactions here, so down system will show you what is the total of that. So that is called run to run control total. Like after entering new transaction, obviously into a batch, so the total will change. So this is what is written here. Run to run control totals. The controls associated with a given batch are checked after each stage of processing to ensure all transactions have been processed. Then guys, we have here key integrity. Key integrity is very simple concepts to understand. Let me just give you example first here. You know, guys, for example, in your accounting system, when you create the chart of account, right? When you create the chart of account, so you have so many ledgers for suppliers, for assets, for expenses. Every ledger is having a code. You know, code. For example, code is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next is 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, like that. Okay. So code is there. So that code is called key integrity. Okay. How it is explained key integrity? Because every record can be identified. Every record is having different identity number. Okay. So that is why it's called key integrity. So key integrity, a records key is the, what is key? Is the group of values is designated field that uniquely identify a record. For example, if your supplier account a record number is 5678, maybe your asset account number is 5696. Understood? If you will enter this, obviously. So this is the group of values, right? In designated field that uniquely identify the record. Okay. So no application process should be able to alter the data in these key fields. We are seeing that. So no one should alter these things. Understood? Our system should not allow them to alter these things. So this is what is called key integrity. So what I told you under processing controls, I told you all input controls can serve as a processing controls. Along with that, you have additional controls. You might have a sequence check, arithmetical controls. You might have a run-to-run control totals. You have a key integrity. Understood? Now, guys, we are going to talk about output controls. What are output controls? Again, output controls provide assurance that processing was complete and accurate. Obviously, guys, once you enter the data, there is always final outcome is there. So the final outcome of your data entry is called output, right? So there must be a control. What controls could be there? So the important control is audit trail. What is audit trail? A complete audit trail should be generated by each process. Like audit trail should be generated by the system. So like, for example, what batch number it is, the time of submission when it was submitted, the time of completion when it was completed, number of records, how many transactions it has in the batch, total dollars in the batch, number of records rejected, the total dollars rejected. So the system will create an audit trail. Okay, like what is the batch number, what was the time of submission, what was the date, okay, how many, what was the total of the total amount of that batch, what was the dollar rejected, what was the records rejected by the system, number of records, number of dollar amounts, right? So that is called audit trail. Okay, so then we have here another control that is called what, error listing. Obviously this is also output control, guys. It can work as output control. Error listing, for example, if system has rejected 10 transaction, maybe due to maybe zero balance checking, maybe debit side was not equal to the credit side for 10 transactions. So system has highlighted so those 10 transactions. So now what you have to do, system will display you those 10 transactions, like these transactions are having some errors, right? So that is called error listing. Once it will show you. So what you have to do? So these should be corrected and resubmitted by the user. So this is also another control. So that is it for the output, input, and processing control. Now, guys, we are going to discuss some controls about storage. Okay, storage control is what? So, guys, the very first control is called dual write controls. Dual write control are dual write routines. Like it simply you can say a backup of data, right? For example, if you will keep your data into one system, if that system is stolen by someone, or maybe if that system is destroyed by a flood or fire, so you will, lose everything. So that is where dual write routine is what, always take a backup of the system or backup of your data and store it somewhere on the separate place, or store it separately on some other physical devices, right? So maybe you can save on the USB or other magnetic hard drives, right? So that is called dual write routine. It's also storage control. If you will lose data on one side, at least you can get the data from other side, right? So then we have a spooling. Guys, what is the concept of spooling? I'll just give you example. For example, when printers are connected with the computers, right? Let's say this is your PC and here is the printer. Maybe one file you want to print, right or wrong? So this file will be spooled, okay, to the intermediary storage, okay, for the printer to access, right or wrong? Obviously, this file is stored, in the system. You can also cancel the, once you have given the print option, maybe later on you can also cancel, right? If it is in the queue, right or wrong? Even during the printing process, you can cancel it, right or wrong? So once you give the command to the system to print any file, it is spooled in the in the intermediary storage where the printer can access, okay, and printer can print it. Okay, that is called spooling concept, right or wrong? It is stored temporarily, right, somewhere. So spooling refers, how you will define spooling? Spooling refers to sending data to an intermediate storage that is accessible by the peripheral device when needed. As I give you example for print file. Okay, you can go through this example. That is called spooling concept. Okay, and somewhere in the intermediary storage you are storing the information. Automatically it is stored. You are not storing it, is by the way. It is designed like that, it is stored there. Then we also have physical control. Okay, like mounting hard drives in physical secure rooms and storing portable media in locked storage areas are vital to preventing the compromising of confidential data. What they're trying to tell you guys, like hard drives you should put in secure rooms, like portable devices like USB, it should be in under proper lock system. Understood? These are called physical controls. Then we have a one more concept which is called cloud computing. It also belongs to storage. This was also storage, right? If you are storing somewhere in the lock. So cloud computing is also storage. Cloud computing, how you will define, guys? We'll talk about more about cloud computing in unit number 19 and 20. But here I'm just giving you example. Cloud computing mean to say when we store our data over the internet, right? So you cannot store only data. You can also have access to the application over the internet. Some companies, they are providing some services. For example, iCloud, best example. Okay, your some data is stored over the internet. Even you don't have access to your device, so still you have an ID and password. By using ID and password from any device, you can access to your data. So that is called cloud computing, right? So what is cloud? Here data is located on the internet, which can be accessed anytime. So what is the advantage of cloud computing? So what is the advantage? Number one, low infrastructure cost. Sometimes, for example, maybe many companies, they are providing cloud services. Maybe I don't want to buy my own system. I don't want to install my accounting software into that system. I can contact with any company over the internet. They can give me the access to the accounting software. I can use their ID and password and I can store my information there, but I have to pay monthly, right? This is the advantage. Advantage is what? It includes low infrastructure investment and maintenance cost. You are not responsible to buy any hard drives, etc. So it is the responsibility of the service provider, right? You don't need to maintain also, it is the responsibility of service provider. It increases the mobility and lower personal and utility cost. Then guys, here, what is the disadvantage? Disadvantage of the cloud computing is you do not have control over the data. Why? Because your data is stored with the third party. Right or wrong? For example, if my data is with you, it is stored in your devices, it means it is no more confidential. Right or wrong? Because you can get access anytime. So that is the disadvantage. Right? So here confidentiality will be compromised. So this is the disadvantage of cloud computing. I hope so it is clear. So now here we have, guys, another topic that input control, output control, and processing control. It was the topic of 18.2, unit number 18, topic number 2. Now we are discussing 18.3. So it is called security measures and business continuity planning. So first I'm going to talk about there are some inherent risks of the internet. Okay, obviously when you transmit the data, when you transfer the data from one area to the other area through the internet, so there are so many risks are there. So those general risks I'm discussing here. Okay, few risks are written, so you have to understand. Number one, a brute force attack. So what people they can do, guys? What is the brute? So actually this is the first type, which is called password attacks. Under password attacks, first category, like password attacks means what? Someone can break your password and can access to your data. So what is the first type of password attack? That is called brute force attack. Brute force attack what? Uses password cracking software. You know, for example, even if your device is... Guys, please switch. So what is brute force attack? Here what we will use, what we will do, we will use password cracking software. So that password cracking software has the ability to try millions of software in a couple of seconds. Right or wrong? Even in the fraction of a second. So brute force attack use password, it's a uses of password cracking software to try large number of letters and numbers combination to access a network. Understood? Like they can break the password and can access to the network. Right? So that is also, that is called what? Brute brute force attack. Then we have here one more definition, that is called spoofing. Spoofing is what? Spoofing is identity misrepresentation in cyberspace. I'll just give you example. Like example is written here, using a false website to obtain visitor information. So that is called spoofing. For example, guys, there are so many, unauthentic websites are there. So there, if you will enter your credit card numbers or any confidential information, maybe they can get access to that information, right? So that is called spoofing. Like there are many entities over the internet. They are showing that they are, the true representative of certain entities, but actually they are misguiding you. Okay, that is called spoofing. Spoofing is what? Is identity misrepresentation in cyberspace. Okay, to collect the visitor information. Then we have another definition that is called sniffing. What is sniffing? Sniffing, you can see here, sniffing is the use of software. Obviously, people will use the software to eavesdrop on information sent by user to the host computer of the website. I'll just give you example. For example, here is the sender and here is the receiver. One sender will send the information. This information mostly converts into packets. Okay, to reach to this recipient. So it is converted into packets. This we don't need to understand, just I'm sharing information. So what people will do, so they use some software to sniff these packets, and then they can get your information. That is called what? Sniffing. Sniffing is what? Is a use of software to eavesdrop on information sent by a user to the host computer. That is also called man in the middle attack. Obviously, once you send the information, okay, from this place to other place, so during or in the middle, okay, during or in the middle, so what they can do, they can sniff the packets. It's written here. They can sniff the packets and they can get your information. Understood? That is called what? Man in the middle attack also. Then what is there is encryption, decryption, that I'll explain later, because there is a proper topic for encryption and decryption. So then there is one more definition, that is called denial of service attack, DOS attack. What is this? Guys, sometimes, what some people they do, they try to overload an organization's network with so many messages that it cannot function properly. Right or wrong? So maybe it can induce a system crash also. Like simply your system is, they are trying to increase the traffic on your system by sending so many messages. So that is called denial of service attack. It is also one kind of risk is there. Sometimes your system might be down due to denial of service attacks. Okay. So what it is, how you will define? It is the attempt. Okay. It is the attempt to overload the organizational network with so many messages. Understood? That's it. It's just definition you have to remember. Okay. So guys, here we have one more small definition, that is called what? Use of data encryption. Okay. So this is also one kind of security, you can say. What is encryption? There are two words, encryption and decryption. Encryption is what? Encryption technologies converts data into code. Okay. For example, when you convert the data into protected file, okay, or into protected version, that is called encryption. Let me give you example first. Like most of the time, when we receive our bank statement, so it is a protected form, right or wrong? Even you download into your system, you cannot open unless you will give the code. So when they convert the bank statement into protected form, that is called encryption. So then there's another word that is called decryption. Decryption is what? When you convert back the protected form into the information by entering some code, that is called decryption. Right or wrong? So for example, once you will enter your password in the bank statement, so bank statement will be displayed on your screen. That is called decryption. So convert the data, conversion of data into code, that is encryption. Conversion of the code back to the data, that is called decryption. Okay, or decoding. It's also called coding and decoding. Okay. Now, guys, here, so there is two major types of encryption software exist. Okay. So let me tell you, there is two types of encryptions are there. One is called public key encryption. It is also called there are two major types of encryption software exist. Okay, guys. One is called public key. This is also called asymmetric encryption. Understood? And second is called private key. These are two methods. So let me explain first public key method. Under public key method, under this public key, we are using two types of keys. Under public key, we are using two keys, okay, for encryption and decryption. One is called public key, second is called private key. Here, please remember, we have two keys. The public keys, and the first you need to remember, so these keys are issued by some certificate authority. There are some companies are available over the internet. Okay. So like for example, VeriSign. So this is one of the company. From there you can buy these keys. Okay. So they will provide you two keys. One key is called public key. Public key will be used to code the message, to convert the data into protected form. But the private key, which is shared privately, so until unless you will not enter the private key, so you cannot decode the message. So there are two keys available under public key method. Okay, so there are two keys. There are two keys. So the public key or asymmetric encryption is more secure of two because it requires two keys. The public key for coding messages is widely known. This key is widely known, but the private key for decoding messages kept secret by the recipient. Understood, guys? So here, what is the process? Process I'm going to explain now. So far, you should remember there are two keys available. Public key for encryption and private key for the decryption. Here, remember, please. Sender. This is important thing. Sender, obvious sender mean to say the person who want to send the message. Like it could be a bank who want to send, for example, the message or statement to you. Sender uses the recipient public key. The sender will use recipient public key, which is obtained from a dictionary. Dictionary means say you are buying from the companies, right? So the sender uses recipient public key, okay, to encode the message and transmits the message to the recipient. The recipient then uses the public key and related private secret key, like obviously the receiver. Please remember, sender will use only public key, okay, to encode the message, but the receiver will use the public key and the private key of the sender to decode the message. Okay, guys. So there are two keys involved. Please remember, public key is for encoding purpose, but for decoding purpose, the public key will be used and the related private key will be used to decode the message. Understood? So this is the public key method. Then we have here private key method. This is another approach. Under private key method, please remember, it is less secure because it requires only a single key. Okay, single key of each pair of the parties, okay, that want to send each other coded message, and the single key can be used for the coding and decoding purpose. Understood? Please remember, I hope so it is clear. Under public key there are two keys, public key and private key. Public key is used for coding purpose and public key and private key is used for decoding purpose. But under private key method only there is a single key, that key will be used. Understood? I hope so it is clear. Now, guys, we are going to talk about the firewall. Okay, this is also a small concept to understand. First of all, you should remember, for example, this is your company. Okay, and obviously here we have outside world. In company, you do the networking, right? You have a network of your computers. So firewall work as a wall. It works as a wall between external users and your internal network. So these people cannot access to your computers, right or wrong? How it is created? It is the duty of IT people. They create this firewall. So how you will define the firewall? Firewall is a combination of hardware and software. Like those people who creates the firewall, they use some hardwares like routers, etc., and they use some softwares like maybe some antivirus software, some other softwares. So what they will do, that this combination of hardware and software, this will separate an internal network. Internal network means your company network from the external network, mean to say from outside world, such as the internet, and prevent passage of traffic deemed suspicious. Obviously, like for example, if hackers will try to hack your network or your system, this firewall will obviously try to stop the hacker. Understood? And there are two types of firewall is there. One is called network firewall, and second is called application firewall. What is network firewall? Network means obviously, let's say this one computer, second computer, third computer, fourth computer. These computers are linked with each other, okay, within the company. So a network firewall, I'm explaining. Network firewall regulate traffic to an entire network, like they will protect the whole network of your computers, such as the organization's LAN, okay, from the external users or from the external world. Understood? So this is called network firewall. You don't need to go through too much in detail. You should remember just basic idea. Network firewall will protect the network from the external party. Understood? Then we have an application firewall. Application firewall regulate traffic to a specified application. Like here you are going to protect specific application only. Understood? And you have created a firewall for that application. Now any other people's, okay, they cannot access to this application, specific to this application. So this is called application firewall. So application firewall regulate traffic to specified application such as an email or file transfer application. Understood? So it means firewall is the combination of hardware and software which will separate your internal network from the external network. Understood? It could be a network firewall where your network is protected from external people, and it could be application firewall where application is protected from other people. Understood? Obviously, a firewall alone is not an adequate defense against computer virus. So that is why we need to install specialized antivirus software also. Okay, now guys, here we have a last topic to discuss. So this is called what? Business continuity planning. Okay, so there is 3 to 4 definition which you have to remember. So guys, please remember here, we cannot provide absolute assurance. Okay, so because absolute assurance of computer security cannot be provided. So we can only take certain steps to reduce the risk. We cannot give the guarantee that there is no risk if you will do these things. Understood? So here, that is why continuity or disaster planning is necessary. Right or wrong? So actually it is, what is continuity and disaster planning, I'm going to tell you guys. So there is 2 words to explain. One is called disaster recovery. What is disaster recovery? Disaster recovery mean to say it is the process of resuming normal information processing operations after the occurrence of major interruption. Like for example, something happened, maybe for example, there is a flood or a fire is there. Understood? So now you are going to resume your normal information processing, okay, after the occurrence of that major interruption. That is called disaster recovery. What is business continuity planning? This is another word. Business continuity planning is the continuation of a business, that you have to continue your business by other means during the period in which computer processing is unavailable or less than normal. That is called business continuity. Like for example, maybe computer processing systems are not available, or if it is available, it's not functioning properly. Then what plan you can do, that is called business continuity planning. Okay, so by the way, it is same thing, guys. You can say just simple words. Like here, you are going to plan certain things. Okay, so there are two major types of disasters are there. Now it will be clear. Don't worry. Two major types of disasters are there. So first type is called when data center is physically available, but it is not functioning. For example, you have an issue with the power, electricity power. Okay, systems are available, but systems are not functioning. Data center is available, but it is not functioning. Why? Maybe due to power failure. So this is the small issue. It can be fixed. But there is another kind of disaster in which data center is not available. For example, if there is a fire or if there is a flood, if there is an earthquake, okay, that can be destroy your system completely. So that scenario is called when data center is not available. So there are two major types of disaster. When data center is available, but it's not functioning. What are the examples for this? Like power failure, maybe intrusion, like some hackers, they're trying to hack your system, but data center is available, so you can take countermeasures. For the power issue, you can create power backup. For unauthorized intrusion, so you can obviously create some firewall, some these kind of things you can do. Okay, or maybe virus attack is there, you can remove it through the antivirus software. So this is not a big issue. So second type of disaster is when data center is not available. When data center is not available, that is the main issue. Like what are the examples here? Like fire, flood, fires, hurricanes, earthquake. So these are the major disasters. So for this thing, like when data center is not available, so how you can continue with the business, what type of continuity planning you can do. So I'm going to explain those things now. So guys, there are three major things which you can do when data center is not available. So these three definitions you have to remember actually. One is called hot site facility. Second is called warm site facility. And third is called cold site facility. Please remember these facilities you can use if data center is not available. Or if you have a risk that maybe due to fire or flood, your data center will be destroyed, it will not be available. But you have to continue with your business. Then which kind of countermeasures you can do, okay, to reduce this risk. So there are three things. Hot site. Let me give you example. For example, your office is in UAE, and here you have a risk of flood because UAE is surrounded by sea. So you have a risk of hurricanes or you have a risk of flood here. Understood? So and you think that maybe it can destroy your system. Now, so what is the hot site and how it can help you, okay, to run your business? So what you will do? You are sitting in UAE. So now what you are doing? So maybe in another country like in UK, you are going to take a office on rent. You are going to install, for example, not you actually, you are going to take an office on rent. So in the UK, there is some service provider. So they are providing you the office. They are providing you all hardwares and softwares. So they are actually giving you fully operational processing facility. They are giving you. Understood? What you have to do? You have to just take your data and just store it there. In case if UAE data center will be destroyed due to flood and fire, so at least you have a complete backup in the UK, so you can run your business from there, because nowadays information is more important. You should have complete data of your customer supply. So simply you have to take a backup of data, store it there. Okay, and once these data center is not available, so you can run your business from there. So this is called hot site. It means in hot site, the service provider will provide you fully operational processing facility that is immediately available. Okay, just you have to store your data there. So they will provide you office space, all hardwares, all softwares, everything they will provide you. Obviously, they will not give you this facility free of cost. You have to pay for that. So that is why hot site is more expensive, facility which you can avail. Then we have a warm site. Again, you are residing in UAE, so you have a risk that your data center might be destroyed by flood and fire. Again, you are going to arrange second data center. Okay. In case if this will not be available, so you can run your business from there. So there is a warm side now. Warm side, what they will do? Obviously, the service provider will give you limited hardware such as communication and networking equipment. So maybe the service provider will give you office, few of hardwares, few of softwares. Not everything will be available. So some of the hardware and software you have to arrange. Okay, you have to arrange some hardware and software. Okay, and then you need to take the data backup and store it there. Obviously, guys, in case if data center is not available in UAE or it is destroyed due to flood and fire, so you can operate your business from there. That is called warm site. It is similar like that, guys. When you take a house on rent, sometime house is fully furnished. That is called hot site. Obviously, fully furnished house will have more rent. You have to pay more cost. Warm site means like it is partially furnished house. Some facilities are provided by the landlord, or some facilities are provided by the service provider. Some you have to arrange. Obviously, the rent for this will be less. Then we have a cold site. Cold site is what? Again, you have a risk of flood in UAE. So you are going to arrange a office somewhere or on other geographical area, for example, in the UK. Now the service provider is offering you only the office. They're saying this is the office you can take on rent. You have to bring your hardware, you have to bring your software, and you have to bring your data. So just you will pay us the rent for the office. That is called cold site. So cold site is the shell facility lacking most infrastructure but readily available for quick installation of hardware. It is like a house which you are going to take on rent. That house is not furnished at all. It is not fully furnished. It is not a partially furnished. That is cold site. So cold site is the cheapest option which you can avail. I hope so it is clear.